Welcome everybody to Keyword Crypto. This is Michael, and I got some stuff to say this week. It's been an eventful week. We're in the midst of a potential sell-off. Are we heading into a bear market? Who knows? Do I care? Not at all, because I am not invested more than I can afford to lose, and I hope you are all in the same position. Yeah, you know what? Red days are scary. Red weeks are scary, and the potential of a mini bear market, like a few month pullback, that's pretty scary for people. But at the end of the day, you gotta ask yourself this: if I walked away tomorrow, and you just didn't look at my portfolio and didn't go on Twitter and didn't do any of that stuff, would I freak out? Would I lose my shit on a daily basis? And if the answer is yes, you probably have too much invested in the crypto space. And you may want to reevaluate how much you have in there. Because at this point, if I just walked away tomorrow, I might get the occasional twinge here and there, pang to check it out. But at the end of the day, I'm like, the stuff I have, I feel confident it's going to be around in 5 years. So that's kind of where I am emotionally, and I hope everybody is able to come to grips with their own emotions with bear markets, because it's so easy to feel bravado and invincible during a bull run, and it's scary. I mean, it can be scary. Like this last week, I'm not going to lie, it's been ridiculous. So I went from, X amount up 50% in 2 days, and then lost, 30% in 1 day, back up 15%, down 20%. Now people are like, oh yeah, big swings in crypto. I'm talking about my entire portfolio, not one or two cryptos in my portfolio. Literally my entire portfolio going in 40% swings in 1 day. That it can be a little overwhelming, but in my mind, I'm like, whatever. I'm not going to change anything because I'm confident. And I did make some changes because I realized there were certain things I wasn't confident in. I think that's the good thing about a bear market, is it really tests my resolve with the cryptocurrencies I have my money in. And when they're green, it's like, oh yeah, these are amazing. I totally love this project. And then when it's red, I'm like, this project is ass. Not the actual project ass that's making everybody a bunch of money on BSC. Not that ass, but crap. So I cut loose a lot of stuff. Not a lot of stuff. I cut loose 3 things. One of them I actually really believe in. I just, for whatever reason, it's been the bane of my existence. It's Ava, which apparently it is Ava, not Ave, not Ave. Apparently it's Ava, which is the Swedish word for ghost or something like that. Or I don't know. I heard that somewhere, so I'm just going to say Ava from now on. I have a lot of faith in the project. I use it on Matic, and I'm going to get to that. But for whatever reason, I have this love-hate, because no matter what entry point I get in, I immediately lose 20%. Every single time. So I've kind of just made my peace with, I'm going to use the website. I'm probably just not going to hold the cryptocurrency. Even though I believe in it and I think it's great, I just, for whatever reason, I actually have a couple Avagachis. For whatever reason, it's one of those things, and I've maybe you have a couple of those in your portfolio, or that you would like to hold, but for some reason it just never works out. BAT is like that for me also. I saw an ad or an article a couple months ago about BAT. I'm like, ooh, that looks bullish. So I grabbed some. It tanked 15%. I was like, fuck, I got stopped out, gone. 3 weeks later, it's up 150%. I was like, God damn it. So I buy in again, down 20%. It's like, God damn it, dude. So Bat and Ava, it was nice knowing you. Looks like I'm a Gemini and you're a Virgo or something like that. I don't know. I don't know who's compatible and who's not. But apparently they're not compatible with me, so I'm just chalking it up to a loss. I'll have fun staying poor with those two, without those two. Speaking of Ava, well, you know what? Let's start off with Ethereum. Good old Ethereum. Good old Ethereum that had a hard fork that ended up making fees triple. I went from paying, $15 on a good day or on a good night when at low gas time, and all of a sudden it was $100 to buy something. I was like, okay, well maybe it'll get better. No, it got worse. It just kept getting progressively worse. I think it started like at $58. I was like, I'll hold off, and then it was $70, and then the next day it was $100. I was like, okay, you know what? I'm officially moving everything over to Matic and BSC and testing out Terra Luna, because and this is my love-hate relationship with Ethereum. So somebody asked me regarding the last episode, they're like, dude, do you just hate proof of work? I'm like, kind of. I mean, if anybody hasn't listened to this show before, I'm a pretty big fan of NANO, and that does a little bit of proof of work every single transaction. So obviously I'm not against proof of work. I think I'm against proof of work in terms of if someone's rewarded for their proof of work financially. So like with NANO, you don't get any reward for doing the proof of work. The proof of work is how, they try to prevent spam. Versus like Bitcoin and Ethereum and all that. Everyone is doing, actual proof of, like, there are proof of work chains. People are using a lot of money to buy a lot of hardware to mine the currency for the reward. So it ends up being a race to the bottom of who can find the cheapest energy and who has the most money to buy the most miners. So I'm going to put a pin in that because that's a whole nother discussion that I want to talk about, since yesterday was Earth Day or 2 days ago was Earth Day. So I'm going to put a pin in that and get back to Ethereum and be like, and say, hey, Ethereum people, maybe you don't care about poor people. Maybe you don't care about the planet. Maybe you don't care about finance. Maybe you don't care about... I feel like, and Ethereum people haven't really made this their narrative or talked about it. But honestly, it just feels like Ethereum is rebuilding the banking system that all the original crypto people hated. Like all the cypherpunks and all the people who were trying to create digital currency, because they hated Wall Street, they hated bankers, they hated banks, they hated fees, they hated this. It's just like, so they're like, yeah, we want to decentralize money that nobody else can control because we don't like Wall Street and all the rich people. And then ETH came along and pretty much just rebuilt the entire banking system. Yay. And I say that because as fees get astronomically high and all these new projects keep launching, their initial goal is to launch on Ethereum because that's, quote unquote, the biggest chain that you can launch stuff off of, because, Bitcoin's useless in that sense. Bitcoin slam. So it's like, if I think the goal is like you want to have the biggest rollout possible with as much fanfare, as much people bidding on your your initial drop of tokens. You want to create like hype around it so it'll take off, because if you're a dev, you have a percentage of the pre-mine, as Bitcoin people love to talk about. You're taking 5% for yourself, 10%, whatever the dev proportion is, and obviously they got to pay themselves for the next 3, 4, 5 years. Like the goal is to not just make it through a bull run, but to also make it through a bear. And the few projects that actually can make it through a bear run and plan accordingly and spend accordingly, those are the ones that have a really good shot of making it in the next season. And we're seeing that, with Ava and Synthetics and just a lot of projects that were kind of like launching 2 or 3 years ago that just kind of like really hustled and dug deep and did all the work. So that way, once the bull market hit, like bull run started to hit last year, like they were poised right there to really capitalize on it. And good for them, good for the devs. They worked their ass off and they deserve that. The problem is, and I've noticed this a lot with Polkadot projects, and I fucking hate them so much, and I won't even waste my time anymore on the whitelists. They're asking us to do all this stuff, retweet, like, tag 3 people, blah, 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 blah. Like their Medium post, do this, do that. And then they launch on Ethereum with $100 transaction fees or $60 transaction fees. So you're pretty much eliminating any poor people from being an early investor, right? Because I want to get back. I want to get back to the reality of the United States of America. Is that pre-COVID, the average person in America, so the majority of people in this country, didn't have $400 in the bank in case of an emergency. So they don't have $400. They sure as fuck can't pay $60 to $100 transaction fee to buy some fucking new, whitelisted coin, or like new drop that's going to be on Polkadot that's dropping on Ethereum. I mean, we got to be realistic of the ecosystem we're creating, or Ethereum is creating for itself. Sure, you can say like it's the gold standard of chains now, because pretty much everybody wants to launch off Ethereum. But all we're really doing, it seems like, is just kind of having all the rich people wash trade on Ethereum. They buy the new project, they pump it up the first couple of days. For all the people who didn't get on the whitelist, they sell the top on all those people. It drops down, 50, 60%, 70%, and then crabs for the next few months, hoping, and everybody who bought the top is just kind of hoping it'll go back up. I mean, you can say, well, people shouldn't buy the top. Okay. Well, I mean, sure, but like if you didn't get in the whitelist and you really want to kind of get on a project, at the end of the day, they're the ones pulling the trigger. It's their fault. But I also feel like it's the idea of, and I can't get past it, the idea of wealthy people taking advantage of poor people or new people who are new to the space. And it's just like, do I want to stop it? No, because like that's centralization. Crypto's crypto. Crypto's decentralized, and that's how it should be, because that's its ethos. But at the same time, it's like, in my mind, cryptocurrency was all about building a better system. Building a better financial system, not one where rich people take advantage of poor people by dumping on them. So I've never really heard Ethereum people like spouting we're changing the world, we're helping poor people, all that stuff. I don't really hear that. I hear Bitcoiners try to claim that with their $100 transaction fees, but I don't really hear that in Ethereum. So I guess I'm obviously not calling anybody out, because like I think it just is what it is. But it would be nice. So that said, I'm like, okay, so stop using Ethereum or stop using layer 1 and start using layer 2 or a side chain. I don't really know what the hell Matic is. I know XDAI is a side chain. I probably should have done that research. Oops. So I've been testing out Matic because they had a, I'm afraid to tell it, but I don't want to. It's this whole thing of like, you find this cool new band and you want to tell everybody how cool it is, but at the same time, you want to kind of keep it to yourself because you don't want to like blow them up and then they get all famous and they sell out and then their entire sound changes to like some poppy bullshit garbage, kind of like Taylor Swift or whoever. That was the first name. I don't listen to Taylor Swift. Sorry if you're offended. And I kind of feel like that's how the DeFi community is on Twitter, where they're all bragging about their massive gains. And when I reach out to any of them and say, hey, can you show me how to use it? Crickets. Nobody wants to explain how they're making all the money. Why? Because the more people that start doing it, those APYs start dropping. The more people know about it. So it's this kind of thing of like, I don't want to tell any of you, but at the same time, you're all going to find out eventually, so I might as well be the one. And as a surfer, that's kind of like the unwritten rule. You never tell anybody about a secret spot. If you find like a surf spot, you just don't tell people because you don't want to blow up the scene and like have 1 million people there and you just never get waves again. Okay, so where I'm on Ava on the Polygon network, which is the Matic network. It's now Polygon. And they have, if you've been on Ava, it's like a borrowing and lending platform. So you stake some Matic or you stake some DAI. They have USD coin, USDT, wrapped ETH, and wrapped Bitcoin. So you stake that and then you can borrow. So you stake that, they give you an APY on it, and then you can borrow against it as collateral. Any of the things that they list. They're doing a special right now, I think for like a year, where they give you added APR on top of that in Matic. And, so it's to the point where you can borrow against what you've lent to Ava and actually make more than you owe over time. So it could technically kind of pay itself off. It would take a long time, but you're getting so much Matic in exchange, like as that bonus, your lend amount is actually increasing faster than your borrow amount. And usually it's supposed to be the exact opposite. Normally, no bank is usually going to let you borrow money at a cheaper rate than they're giving you interest for keeping your money there, right? So, perfect example. So on Matic, the deposit APY is 2.48%, and the borrow APY is 6.94. That's pretty normal. The borrow rate's always going to be higher than the deposit rate. That's just basic banking. No bank could survive if their borrow rate was lower than their lend rate. But you can get this extra bonus of 9.65 deposit APR in Matic and 21.63% APR for borrow. So if you're borrowing, like their borrow rate is 6.94, that's the percentage that the money you borrowed increases at. So every day you got to give back more and more and more. But they're giving you free Matic at 21.63%, and that kind of offsets. So the money that you borrowed is actually shrinking over time, even though you're not paying it off. Or you can just take that extra reward and put it into your deposit, and then your deposit increases faster than the borrow increases. if you aren't familiar with this stuff, it's very confusing the first time. And to make it even more confusing, if that wasn't hard enough, if you haven't like completely zoned out and like smashed your Tesla into a tree while you're sitting in the back seat, poor guys. I shouldn't make light of that. 2 guys died doing that. It's, I don't know. So the deposit is APY and the borrow is APR. So I was talking with people online on Twitter and they're like, oh, so you got the deposit, you got the 2.48% plus the 9.65%, so you're really getting 13% or 12%. And I was like, that's not how it works. First off, the extra 9.65 bonus, that's in Matic. That's not in whatever currency you're staking. So if it's Matic, it's if you're depositing Matic, it all kind of makes it a lot easier to figure out. But if you're depositing something like DAI, you're getting, and I put in $1,000, I'm getting 2.37% on $1,000. And they're going to give me whatever X bonus in Matic. But Matic is 30 cents. And so you can't add those two percentages because one's based on $1 and one's based on 30 cents. So you can't add those two together. So a lot of people were like, oh, it's 12%. It's like, no, not technically. That's, it's if you're lending DAI and borrowing DAI, you can't do that. And then on top of that, the deposit's APY, but the bonus Matic is APR. And they don't tell you what the APR is based on. If it's daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, because the APY is what you would make after a year. If you kept that $1,000 in for a full year, the APY would be like, so it's you get 2%. So whatever that is, that's what you get at the end of the year. But the APR, who knows? I mean, it doesn't say what it's at. It might be somewhere deep in the notes, in the show notes, in the fact page or whatever, but I dug a little bit, but I couldn't find it. Hold on. Oh, see? Learn something every day. I dragged my mouse over the bonus APR and a screen just popped up. And I don't remember it being there before. Maybe it got changed. Maybe I just never really left my cursor over that bonus APR. The bonus APR is what you would earn during a 1-year period. Okay. So I don't know what the borrow APR is, if that's over the course of 1 year or if it's done weekly or monthly. So there's all these different things you got to kind of figure out. And if you're going to use this, just be careful, right? And another thing I was thinking is, it's like, I don't want to, okay, I'm not going to say that because I don't want to give financial advice. So I was going to say what I did, but I'll just say what I did. So to make it easier, because my brain cannot seriously figure that out, is I staked Matic, I borrowed Matic, and then I went to a different website and exchanged that Matic for USD, and then staked that USDT on Curve. Because I didn't want to deal with lending one asset and borrowing a different asset against it. This way I just knew it was all going to kind of work out in the end, and I just didn't have to think about it. So Curve is now on Polygon as well, Polygon Matic. They only have one pool, and it's a stablecoin pool, which, hey, just in time for the bear market. So they give you a base APY, and they also give you bonus Matic. So if you're interested in any of this kind of DeFi stuff and learning about it, but ETH scares you away just because the fees are so astronomically high to do anything, especially when you have to do, like, on Curve, you have to do like 3 transactions just to do one thing. That can end up being like, $300 or $400. And then if you're only putting in $1,000, you've already lost 30% of your money after 5 minutes, which I learned the hard way with Bao. So if you're interested in all that kind of stuff, that's a good way to learn about it. And there's a bunch of bridges. So if you have money on BSC, you can bridge it over to Matic. If you have money on Terra Luna, you can bridge it over, I think. And then, you can do that. And then also XDAI, they have a bridge. And then also there's a bridge to Ethereum. So the bridges are kind of coming out like wildfire. And you can pretty much go anywhere to any network relatively easy. And as long as Ethereum isn't involved, relatively cheaply too. So if you really want to test out a different chain and you don't want to go through Ethereum and you're a US citizen, you can buy the cheapest asset to move, whatever that is for you. I feel like Bitcoin or Ethereum is probably going to be the cheapest because they usually have a pair on other exchanges, so you won't have to do like another transaction and change it to something else. But just check it for yourself. So what I did was I bought something, I sent it to KuCoin, converted that to BNB, sent the BNB to the BNB wallet on Chrome, on Google Chrome, and then you can send it to yourself again on that same wallet, on that same app, to the BSC version, and it automatically switches it to the new network for you from ERC20 to BSC, and then you can send it to, and then you can now use that BNB on BSC without having to like go through Ethereum or go through Binance or go through any like. Cause it's technically, if you're a U.S. citizen, it's illegal to use Binance. So this way you don't have to break any laws. It's just available, and it's cheap, and it's lightning. It's really fast. So if you want to test out, and then once you're there, you can easily get money over to Matic through a bridge without having to go through Ethereum and spend a fuck ton on fees. So yes, so that's my experience on Matic. It's still very, very young. I would love Curve to have a couple more pools, because like an Ethereum pool or something like that. But whatever. I think it literally just launched like a week ago, maybe. But it's exciting. It's exciting that we're kind of seeing what layer 2 is going to be like on Ethereum. And if this is what it's going to be like, if this is a really good taste, if this is just a taste of what's more to come, I'm happy, because it's fast, it's cheap, and it works relative. I mean, I think I've only had like 3 transactions like not go through. So even when they don't go through, it's like a fraction of a penny. It's like 1/100th of 1 penny. That's how much transactions cost. So that's pretty damn cheap. And then if Ethereum were able to go proof of stake, you'd kind of have it all. You'd have a cleaner energy-wise, green, less energy-intensive chain as your base, and then a bunch of really fast, cheap side chains and layer 2s. That would be pretty good. So then I tested Anchor, that runs on Terra Luna. And they have an option of borrowing and lending. So I'm just interested in this because I've been listening to a lot of rich people, and the common thread is, we don't ever sell. And I'm like, oh, great. Must be great to be rich, blah, blah. And they're like, no. You're missing the point. Is we don't sell. We borrow against our assets. And as a guy who has been in debt a lot with credit cards, to me, that's just like anathema. I'm like, what? No. But it kind of makes sense if you understand how to do it in a way where, like if I borrow Matic, if I put Matic in and borrow some Matic and convert that to USD, and that Matic kind of pays itself off because of that added bonus for the next year, it's almost free money. And I hate saying that. But it's almost free money because if the price of Matic goes down, I don't get blown up because I didn't borrow USD from Ava. I borrowed Matic and then moved it off somewhere else and converted it. So I'm paying back the Matic no matter the price of Matic. Now, if it goes up in price, obviously I'm personally losing money on the increase in the price of Matic. But if I'm doing it to pay rent or buy something and instead of putting it on a credit card, that can be potentially good. Potentially. So we'll see. I'm still on the fence about testing that out just because if we're going into a bear market, I don't know. I'm on the fence of like really testing that out about taking a loan against it and then having it drop down and then kind of like seeing how that plays out. As somebody who didn't grow up with money and grew up kind of poor, experimenting with this stuff is like makes every single one of my spidey senses tingle because I'm just in the past this would be danger zone, just don't do it. But now it's a whole new world. So okay, Anchor. This process is a fucking nightmare. So unless you really are using money you could just light on fire tomorrow and be fine with, I wouldn't use it for now. Just because I don't hold Luna. I missed that boat. Somebody told me about it back in October or November, and then it went up, 500%. So I never really got into it. So it's not something like ETH that I just feel like I would hold forever. Like have some ETH, hold it forever, be fine. With these other projects like Solana and Avalanche and Terra Luna, I'm on the fence about being too deep into any of them just because no matter how good they are, if they don't end up getting the network effect, I'm just out that money. So I tend to trade stuff against Ethereum and track it against Ethereum since Ethereum's, the biggest of them all. And if they're doing well against Ethereum, sure. But if they start to tank against Ethereum, I'm like, there's just no reason for me. Like, why would I hold it if Ethereum is outperforming it? With Anchor, it says, stake some stuff and you can take out a loan and the loan will pay itself off. That's their claim to fame. So I got so they use UST as in Tom. That's their stable coin. And so I got some and I moved it over there. And then I was like, I can't do anything with it. I can deposit it and earn 20% interest on it, which is, that's solid. That's a solid interest rate. But I can't take out a loan against it. So I deposited it and I was like, why can't I borrow anything? He said, because that's not the collateral they're asking you for. The collateral they're asking you for is B Luna. Not Luna, B Luna. So to get that B Luna, you have to there's 4 tabs. There's the earn, borrow, bond, and govern. You got to go to the bond tab. First you got to buy Luna. But here's the thing. The cool thing about Terra Luna is you can do anything with any asset. So I didn't have Luna, I only had UST. And Luna is like Ethereum, like that's kind of the gas of the network. But you can use whatever you're holding, it'll just take a fraction of that out and that'll pay for the gas. And I was like, oh, perfect. So I had some Luna, or I had some UST, and I deposited and withdrew and blah, blah, because I realized I couldn't borrow against that. And I just kept on taking a little fraction of that off to pay for the gas. It's like, this is actually kind of cool. This is my biggest frustration with Ethereum is like, I sent some Chainlink to a friend, and I forgot that they have to now go buy ETH to be able to do anything with that Chainlink. Like, they couldn't send it anywhere because they didn't have any Ethereum. And it was like, they're like, this is the stupidest thing. Why did you give me this? And now it's like 10x. So, they're thanking me. But it is very, very annoying with Ethereum to do that. And with Matic, oh my God. On Ava, I would stake Matic, and my initial thing is just to hit stake everything. So I'd stake everything or deposit everything in there. And then I'd go to borrow, and it's like, oh, you don't have enough Matic. I was like, fuck, Matic is the gas. And I did it like fucking 7 times, I shit you not. Because I have 2 different wallets. And luckily, thank God, I keep like half of a Matic in that other wallet. And so I've had to send myself Matic like 7 times. And luckily it's super fast, and because gas is like 0.0001 Matic, it's not that big a deal to send it back and forth. So that's annoying as hell. So when Anchor was like, oh, you can do everything with UST, I was like, okay, great, cool. So I was like, oh, I'll convert my UST into Luna. Oh, so the bond, the bond page, you have to, I want to bond Luna and mint B Luna, because B Luna is what you have to stake to be able to borrow UST off of that. I'm just like, fuck, what? But that took me like forever to figure out. So I went to TerraSwap, which is like their version of Uniswap. I was like, okay, I'll just buy some Luna. That's the one thing you can't buy with UST. You have to actually have Luna gas to be able to do any transactions on TerraSwap. What the fuck? So I send the UST back to a centralized exchange that has, to KuCoin, that has some Luna. I buy some Luna. I send everything back over. Make the change. Deposited some Luna into the bond. Minted the B Luna. Moved over to the borrow. Deposited the B Luna. Borrowed the UST. Staked the UST for 20%. APY. Long nightmare. Then the bear market hits, and I'm not saying it's a bear market. I take that back. Not a bear market. Let's not jinx it. Maybe it's just a week-long cooling down period. So that starts like yesterday. I was like, and I'm evaluating what I want to keep and what I don't want to keep. What I don't mind sitting through a bear market with in my pocket, and then what's just going to constantly make my skin crawl that I'm holding this thing, And Luna was one of them. Terra Luna was one of them. I was like, I don't know anything about this thing, and I don't know if I want to hold it through. If we go into like a 3-month bear market, a 3-month pullback, that's not a bear market. It's just a pullback. Let's just be positive. If we go through a 3-month pullback, I don't know if I want to hold like 20 different assets versus just holding like 5. So I was like, all right, you know what? I tested it out. And also, okay, so here's the thing about the borrow. It gives you an APR bonus. So like I'm being charged 34% APR on the UST I take out. That's a lot. That's like credit card. That's like higher than credit card standards. But they do this magic thing where they take your staked and they do stuff with it, and they stake it in other stuff for you, and they make some profit on that, and they give it back to you as ANC. They gave you a bonus of ANC, which is the Anchor Protocol token. And that ANC is valued higher than right now. Like the return that they give you in ANC is higher than the borrow APR. So they're giving you back 96.37%, which is obviously higher than 34%. So the net APR is positive 62% right now. So feasibly, the money you borrowed, that APR would pay it back itself over time. But you have to constantly be going in and taking that ANC that they give you as a reward, sell that, convert it to Luna, bond the Luna, convert that to B Luna, and then pay back, or no, UST. Sorry, UST. You have to convert it to UST, send it back, pay back the UST loan that way. But it pays itself off. Feasibly. Right now it does, but we don't know I don't know. Anchor launched like a month ago or 2 months ago. So nobody really knows how this stuff is going to hold up during a pullback. Let me be positive. A pullback. So it could totally fucking all go red and everyone gets blown up and loses all their collateral. Who knows? I don't really want to be the one to test that out. So I'm like, you know what? This is one of those ones I don't feel comfortable holding during a pullback. So I'm gonna pull out of this one. Keep my stuff in Ava. So to get it back, I have to burn the B Luna, and Luna magically comes from that. But it takes 21 days. I'm like, oh my God, dude, I'm pretty sure I saw it. It just didn't really register at the time because there was so much hopium flowing through me with the green, all the green candles. And I'm like, 21 days, it's nothing. We've been in a year-long bull market. What's 21 days? But now that it's red, I'm like, so they have a burn that takes 21 days, and they have an instant burn, which happens instantly, obviously. But the instant burn is going to cost $50, which is an Ethereum fee. I could have just done it all on Ethereum and saved the money, or spent the same amount of money. So I'm letting it burn right now, and I'm just praying that it doesn't tank more than $50. The value of the Luna that I have in there, the B Luna that I have in there, and I'm hoping it'll all work itself out. If not, if it starts to tank, I'm just gonna bite the bullet and pay the $50. And then you got to claim that, and then you got to go convert it somewhere, and so yeah, it's a little overwhelming. And I always tell people when I interview people, like, I kind of think of like if I'm trying to explain it to my mom, because ultimately at the end of the day, we want our parents and grandparents and our children and whoever to be able to just hop on here and do this. Like, future of France, right? Sorry, Twitter joke, stupid. This is the future of finance. So I know it's early going, and I know people are just like kind of, I would hope that in the future on Anchor, I would put one asset in, it would do all the conversions for me, and then say, okay, unstake 21 days. Okay. And it would tell me the price. Do you want to unstake now? You're going to get this back in 21 days. Or if you want to unstake over 21 days, you're going to get this much back. If you want to unstake now, it's going to be, this much less. And I do the math in my head. I feel like a lot of people kind of like leave out a lot of that stuff on purpose because they want people to give them money. Kind of like the credit card companies. I feel like there's a lot of fine print in DeFi right now, and I can't tell if it's just it's kind of like incompetence. They don't know to explain it better, and they think it's super easy to understand. They don't understand how normal people read stuff, because like the Anchor site's really pretty and nice and like clean, but there's not a lot of details about, explaining stuff like just a step-by-step process. Like I feel like it just, when one Luna costs like $13 or $14 right now. And so I just happened to look at it and say, oh wow, that's four Luna less if I burn it right now. How much is Luna? And I was like, oh my God, that's $50. Okay. So obviously I don't want to do that. I would say Anchor needs a lot of work. If you have a lot of money, or if you have money that you just don't care about and you just want to test it out and you want to get 20% on your stable coin, I say it's 20% solid. Do it. That part's very easy. Staking UST, very simple. Unstake, easy, simple. The bonding stuff, borrowing against it, that gets very confusing, and I don't know how that's going to hold up over time. So just be careful with that if you do that, if you try that. You know what? I think that's good. That's my experience. I was going to shit talk Bitcoin. I'll shit talk Bitcoin for 5 minutes. What's going on with those guys? There was this huge push of misinformation over the last week, saying Bitcoin's good for clean energy, it's good for the planet, blah, blah. And, it kind of reminds me of the whole and so I have a pinned post of just like, yeah, it's like if everyone starts shitting in the street, that'll be good for street cleaning. Great. Versus just everyone pooping inside their house and not needing to spend hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars on street cleaning. Like if everybody it's the whole thing of like, just clean up after yourself so we don't have to spend ungodly amounts of money cleaning up after you, having the city clean up after us. It's a very entitled approach. It reminds me of the 50s. Like there's that great scene in Mad Men where they're out at a picnic, Don and his wife and the kids and everything, and he gets up and he shakes all the trash off his blanket and just walks away. And all this trash is just littering the park. With the idea that, oh, we pay our taxes, somebody will clean that up for us. And it's just like, just clean it up so we all don't have to clean up after you. But so I was like, what's up with this big push? And I'm like, oh yeah, it's Earth Day. Why are they doing this on Earth Day of all days? Anybody who can use the internet can see that the majority of Bitcoin mining is done with fossil fuels. The majority, everywhere. Like that's, and no one's presented any data to refute that. They say it's not true, but they conveniently are unable to provide any data. But why would you do that on Earth Day when everyone is so concerned about the planet? Why would you make this big disinformation push? That just doesn't make sense to me. In my mind, it's just like, everyone's worried about the environment. Just keep your mouth shut for a week. Why is that so hard? Just 1 week off. Don't spread your misinformation. Just leave it alone. I don't want to give them advice because I don't want to help them. I'm happy they did it because it just made everyone very, very apparent about how much they're lying. And last thing, Nathaniel Popper, dude is my new favorite person. I hope he's not like a Nazi or something because I just like his tweet, and maybe I shouldn't call him my favorite person. But Nathaniel Popper, amazing tweet, found this information from Coin Center where they sent out a call for an economist willing to study Bitcoin's energy usage and issue a report that would, quote unquote, offer justification for the energy expenditure. So if you're younger than me, you're probably not gonna know about this. But in the 70s and in the 70s and the 90s, in the 70s, the oil companies did a scientific study and found out that burning fossil fuels was disastrous for the planet. Their study. And it just came to light like in the last year. They found the studies and they said, oh, they've known about this since the 70s. But what they did instead was started a misinformation campaign. just saying it was all a lie, that global warming was a hoax, that burning fossil fuels isn't bad for the planet. They started hiring these fake scientists or real scientists who were willing to go against everything they're taught to do as scientists and lie for these companies and just spread their narrative. And they took the original report that they knew was true and they just put it in a drawer and hoped no one would ever find it. And then Big Tobacco went in front of Congress in the 90s and stood with their hands raised, even though they had tons of their own actual scientific studies that proved that nicotine was addictive. Nicotine was addictive, and it caused lung cancer and emphysema and all this horrible, horrible shit. They knew that, and they went in front of Congress. They had the report. They put that in a drawer. They went in front of Congress and lied and said nicotine is not addictive. Cigarettes aren't bad. Cigarettes are actually good for you. And they continued to hire doctors, fake doctors, real doctors who were willing to put all their moral and ethics aside and lie and say smoking isn't bad for you and smoking isn't addictive. So, taking a page from Big Oil and Big Tobacco, Coin Center, which is like an investment company that deals with blockchain and Bitcoin, they're now looking for economists to confirm that Bitcoin is good for the planet. That the amount of energy Bitcoin uses is actually a good thing. And so someone replied to them immediately and says, judging from the 3 points you listed. Oh, so in their first email, they sent out this email, and it said, we're looking for a well-credentialed energy economist or similar expert from whom we may be able to commission a well-sourced report on Bitcoin's energy use, including 1. Address factual inaccuracies in how some have calculated the current energy use and offer a correct estimation. 2. Offer justification for the energy expenditure, especially relative to existing money systems or data processing. That one's amazing. That one, I love that one. So the latest information I'm able to find is that there are 1 million active Bitcoin addresses. That's it. There's like 35 million addresses, but only 1 million of them are actually active. Meaning that we really have like about 1 million people who use Bitcoin on a daily basis. And they want to compare that with the 7 billion people who use the financial system and say, see, the 1 million people that use Bitcoin are using just as much energy as that dirty financial system that 7 billion people use. Okay, back to it. 3, explain that long-term incentives are for miners to find more efficient energy sources, thus developing those sources. I have never heard of a miner building an energy source. So spending hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars on miners, and then turning around and spending tens of million dollars on a solar plant for the energy to run those miners. No! They spend all their money on miners and then try to go find cheap energy. They don't care, and they don't care what kind of energy it is. They just want the cheapest energy. So someone replied to them, and this is excellent. Judging from the 3 points you listed in your email, it appears that you already know what the answer should be before you hire an expert to perform an unbiased analysis and report their findings to all. It seems to me that the industry should study the pros and cons of mining, including energy usage, and let the chips fall where they may. I don't own any significant number of Bitcoins, but I am a huge supporter of the innovation and feel that it is important that we find the best use case for it, which requires an honest assessment of the mining and energy usage costs. Yes. But at this point, people are so invested, like Coin Center, their entire business model revolves around the success of Bitcoin, that they will do anything to lie and misinform about Bitcoin. And there's these articles going around, and I'm going to say his name because he's the one putting them out there. Nick Carter, he keeps on spreading his quote unquote articles as proof that Bitcoin is good for humanity and good for the planet. And I want to remind people, you got to look first off where the person who wrote it works. Nick Carter just happens to work for a VC. He's a VC partner of a Bitcoin company that, deals with Bitcoin. Their whole business model revolves around Bitcoin and blockchain. And you also have to look at every single one of his CoinDesk articles, quote unquote articles, right at the top, right beneath the title, in a big yellow box, opinion. This was a big problem 5 years ago, where they were testing children to see if they could decipher the difference between an ad and an actual article. Because magazines and advertising companies were becoming so deceiving, they were creating ads that looked just like articles. And because children weren't being taught to decipher the difference between the two, they were reading these ads thinking they were actually scientific articles and reciting them as proof of something. And this obviously horrified parents and teachers and anybody who is worried about intelligent people taking over the country eventually. So they enacted laws that said you have to put "this is an ad" in big bold letters. So on CoinDesk, which is a junk website, they're all, I don't know, I'm not gonna say all, but like their main couple people are all Bitcoiners, and they're pretty vocal about it on Twitter. So I'm not like spilling any secrets, I don't think. They don't have any journalistic rules they have to follow, right? Because it's just the internet. They're more or less just a blog. Like they're a blog. They're like a hobby blog. They're like Ars Technica, but Ars Technica tries to maintain some kind of journalistic integrity. CoinDesk, not so much, because where Ars Technica is about just science and math and technology, CoinDesk is about Bitcoin succeeding. Because a lot of these people are in the mindset that if Bitcoin doesn't succeed, if something overtakes Bitcoin, the whole thing is going to collapse. So I think in their mind, they have so much money tied up in the success of Bitcoin that they just don't really care about journalistic integrity. They don't care about doing research. They don't care about interviewing people. I mean, the amount of journalists who are quoting Nick Carter saying that he explained to them how Bitcoin works and how it's good for the planet because they don't know any better. And for some reason, they didn't do their research and their backstories on, their research on Nick. And I don't want to, look, I mean, I don't have a problem with CoinDesk or Nick or even Coin Center being dishonest. At least Nick puts opinion underneath the title of his opinion pieces. So anytime somebody puts opinion, you should never even remotely take it as fact. You should take every single thing they say with a grain of salt. But Coin Center is being extremely dishonest. And they're pulling the big tobacco and big oil play. And those scams really hurt our not only our country, but our planet. Millions and millions and millions of people died from cigarettes. And we have an entire generation of kids growing up with asthma because of poor air quality in this country. Because people just, kept on thinking that, oh, it's fine, doesn't matter. We can keep driving our cars and we can keep getting 5 miles per gallon in our big SUVs or whatever, 10 miles per gallon. It doesn't matter. Whereas the rest of the world, like Europe especially, they have massively high CAFE standards. Like 40, 50 miles per gallon. So I hope people understand that if you're a Bitcoiner, yeah, read Nick's stuff. It's entertaining. He's preaching to the choir. He's lying to the choir. But the choir are all liars too. They know it. They know that the planet's burning. Finally somebody on Twitter acknowledges, like, I don't care where the energy comes from. Great. Let the oceans burn. He goes, let the oceans boil. You'll be the first person I throw in. And I'm like, thank you for being honest. Thank you. Good luck with that. You know, you do you, but don't try to lie about it. So please understand how science works. Science works by having a theory, testing that theory, taking the results and sharing them with other scientists and letting them recreate the experiment. And if they all get the same results, and more people start testing it, and everybody gets the same results, then people can kind of live by that at that point. That's kind of like a theory at that point. But if you make a claim that I did all this research, and then you conveniently don't have the research to share with us, if somebody says that to you, if somebody says it makes all these claims, but they don't have any data to give to you, that's a pretty good indicator they're fucking lying to you. They're trying to sell you something that you should not be buying, right? Because the long-term viability of Bitcoin does not look good. At its current rate of energy usage, we're not producing that much clean energy at any kind of rate of the growth of Bitcoin. So we're getting dangerously close to, Bitcoin needing like 100% fossil fuels at this point, because all they're doing is sucking up all the clean energy that we invested in as communities. They come in, suck all that up, and we're left burning our own burning fossil fuels to power our computers or whatever. So just be careful. Everything I say, go look it up. And if you have a question, if you're not sure about a resource, reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to fact check it for you and then share every single step along the way of what I do and why and how I got to where I got. I click on every single link in every single article, and I just go down that rabbit hole and I find out where the original piece of information came from, because I have no fucking life. But not everybody has that has the ability to do that. And I understand that. I will do that for you. So send me stuff and I'll fact check it for you. All right, that's it. Stay safe out there. If we do have a correction for a few months, don't freak out. Evaluate your portfolio. What in your portfolio are you freaking out about? Maybe that shouldn't be in your portfolio. Maybe. Evaluate it. Think about it. Bear markets or corrections are amazing times to think about what you want to be invested in and what you want to do with your life and the stress you... Like, look, the last bear market, I was stressed out because I had some stuff. So I kind of made the vow of, the next bear market, because there's going to be a next bear market. The next bear market, I'm going to only be in stuff that I can just turn it all off for a year and just enjoy my life. Go surfing or something like that, or, whatever. Keep working at the cafe or the bar, because that's what I'll be doing. All right, everybody. Stay safe out there. Enjoy your life.